The Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. By Patrick J. Berkery. 2. Sickness and Disease. A condensed version. Edgar Cayce advocated good health care, but at the same time, he was very vocal as to what causes illness. Sickness was caused by an unwillingness to comply with the laws of the universe. We cause our own sicknesses through non-compliance with the needs of self. We are going to read and hear some startling affirmations about why we get sick. What is our first obligation, then, as a self-healer? It is to subject ourselves willingly to the laws of the universe. The laws are in reality opportunities for us, pathways through which we can restore balance in our lives and those who suffer illness. There comes that indication that the entity is meeting problems which have been problems before. What produces problems in the experience of an entity, either in its mental or its material self? That of non-compliance to the laws, the purposes for which creative forces have given the opportunities to the individual entity. People think that when they get sick, they are victims of something sudden, and for which they received no warning. There are no such things as sudden illnesses. Please give the origin of all this trouble. It began about 35,000 years ago. This is the trouble. We actually make ourselves sick. We perform a series of actions that over a long period produce a rebellion in the body. The body's rebellion results from our personal rebellion to the laws of nature. We have been doing things incorrectly, on the levels of the physical, mental and spiritual. The condition that exists in the physical bodies we find all produced by conditions that may be met. There are in truth no incurable conditions, though the condition may be changed, or the mode of the plane's existence changed. That which exists is and was produced from a first cause, and may be met or counteracted, or changed, for the condition is the breaking of a law, and the healing forces will of necessity become the compliance with other laws that meet the needs of the condition. The healing depends upon the individual, and the attitude taken toward conditions from all manner of ways, or of the perception or consciousness of force that may be manifested through the individual. As to the psychic forces, only can give that condition that is, or produced, and the compliance with the law that may make a given condition. The whole rests then with such an individual, and its conditions, as is capable of being manifested through itself. Psychic readings for conditions, as given, then may be of assistance in the understanding of the law to be met or complied with. The evasion of a law only puts conditions off, and must eventually be met. Get a feel for what Cayce teaches about illness. Here we have an unbalanced condition in the nerve system, in the assimilating system, in the glandular system, yet the body attempts, through the activity of the creative forces in all three of these systems, to adjust itself to the disturbances, and to do the best it can with what it has. If we would only attempt to do that in our minds, how much happier the world would be. Ye are sensitive to things about you, because ye have lived not only in this experience, but in many others a very extravagant life in every phase of your associations with your fellow man. Have ye not found within, as in thine own body in the present, that the extravagance of thy living has produced those very inclinations that arise in thy digestive forces? Thus thy high blood pressure that is produced within thy body arises from this overindulgence, this overactivity. And unless ye make reparation, these conditions will overcome thee. How may ye make reparation? By being what? Consistent. Oh, what a dual consistency must be in thine experience, if ye will but take it and use it and apply it day by day. As to the material activities, keep away from those things that hinder, such as the effects of alcohol, the effects of riotous living, the effects of indulgence in those things that are of the nature of great quantities of stimulations, whether they be in condiments, excess of sugars, excess of this, that or the other. Or, as just given, be consistent. Cayce saw sickness on several levels. You must not see sickness as one-dimensional. Most experience sickness in a very deep-seated manner. Will surgery be advisable for the liver? Not if the applications suggested are made and as the attitude is changed. If the body continues to hold on and to enjoy being worked on by the doctors, cut on by same, pulled and hauled about by others, well, you might as well keep on doing it. But we have indicated how to meet the condition, first within self, quit feeling sorry for self. Do something about it that will be constructive, by doing something for others as well as by being more quiet. We make ourselves sick. All illness according to Cayce is rooted in sin. And all sin, in fact, the only sin as revealed in the readings, is self. Sin means off the mark. As we seek to gratify the self instead of complying with the laws of nature, we find ourselves becoming very selfish. We seek only our self-interests, our own purposes. We begin to pay the consequences of our inverted view of the universe. The entity-pitted self. And an individual soul that begins to pity self soon finds fault with others and forgets the real freedom. If there is the constant resistance kept as through the holding of resentments, the creating of activities in the finding of fault here and there, we will continue to have a reaction that will be a very nervous, a very disturbing physical, as well as mental material condition. Keep the constructive mental attitude. Never resentments, for this naturally creates within the system those secretions that are hard upon any circulation, and especially where there is disturbance with the spleen, the pancreas and a portion of the liver activity. For every soul, as every tub, must stand upon its own self. And the soul that holds resentment owes the soul to whom it is held, much. Hast thou forgiven him the wrong done thee? Then thou owest naught. Not just the general self caused sickness, but, specifically, the emotions could also cause disease. To be sure, attitudes oft influence the physical conditions of the body. No one can hate his neighbor, and not have stomach or liver trouble. No one can be jealous and allow the anger of same, and not have upset digestion, or heart disorder. For anger can destroy the brain, as well as any disease. For it is itself a disease of the mind. The constant thinking, the constant thought of hate, malice, jealousy, brings physical conditions, as a result in the physical body, as it does in a state, or a nation. It is such results that produce warring conditions of nations, disputations in state, physical disturbances in a body. These are part of the conditions here, animosities, dislikes, jealousies, hates. The expression is first through the sensory organism. Change the body thoughts, we will change the effect upon those activities in the throat, in the eyes, in the ears, and the body forces. We must overcome all attitudes and negative thoughts or emotions if we would be effective channels of healing. As healers, be signs of peace and reflect personal harmony in our everyday life, simply because our physical body reflects the state of the mind and soul. What Cayce has given us is the source of many ills, and at the same time, the way we can show people how to recover true health. There are evidences of a weakness in the physical body through the desire for gratifying of appetite that has blocked the will of the mental forces by gratifying of a physical desire for the emotions of a mental and physical experience, thus becoming a destructive influence to the physical and the mental body. Then, how have these activities so worked, so manifested themselves upon the physical as to deplete that resistance which should manifest itself in a physically, materially, well body? In the gratifying of a desire, these become habit-forming, in the manner of the effect then of the drug and the effects of alcohol upon the system, weakening the will, and thus weakening the coordination between the manifestation of spiritual truth with material gratification of flesh desires. Are all physical weaknesses and ailments caused primarily from breaking of spiritual laws, instead of just physical, or natural laws as we know them? Rather the combination of each. As in the physical forces, they are the activities from those things just indicated, as to how color comes into, or tone comes into, its physical existence from the spiritualization of sound, or spiritualization of the vibrations that are set up by elementals, or by forces in same. So with the activities in the body. These come from the first urge, which is the meeting of the union of forces that create, as the beginning of inception, and those elements then that enter in by the feeding when it begins with the changes of same, make for certain indications. And the functioning of glands, as are indicated, that make for the height, or that make for color, or as to make for the functioning of various conditions. Then, it's a combination of these. Yet, as has been indicated, always will it be found that the attitude of the mental forces of a body finds its inception in those things that come into growth. For what we think, and what we eat combined together make what we are, physically and mentally. What is my worst fault? What is ever the worst fault of each soul? Self. Self. What is the meaning of self? That the hurts, the hindrances are hurts to the self-consciousness, and these create what? Disturbing forces, and these bring about confusions and faults of every nature. For the only sin of man is selfishness. For instance, do my weaknesses in the physical body have anything to do with the manner in which I first erred in spirit, hence making it necessary for me to correct inharmony within before attaining a perfect body? They are the result of same, of course, throughout the activities in the ages, and what we do about them in any one experience or combination of all of the experiences. Is the ill health which I have been experiencing the past years the result of mistakes of a past life, or is it due to something amiss in this present life? Both. For there is the law of the material, there is the law of the mental, there is the law of the spiritual. That brought into materiality is first conceived in spirit. Hence, as we have indicated, all illness is sin, not necessarily of the moment, as man counts time, but as a part of the whole experience. For God has not purposed or willed that any soul should perish, but purgeth everyone by illness, by prosperity, by hardships, by those things needed in order to meet self, but in him, by faith and works, are ye made every whit whole. Sickness then is basically rebellion. A sincere compliance brings about healing, if and when we so desire it. And when there are rebellions of body or mind against such, is there any wonder that the atoms of the body cause high blood pressure, or cause itching, or cause running sores, or cause a rash, or cause indigestion? For all of these are but the rebellion of truth and light, error and correction in a physical body. For thy body is indeed the temple of the living God. What have you dragged into this temple? Seek the Lord while he may be found, and then apply just plan everyday judgment to the disturbance of this body, and you will find that you will grow in grace, in knowledge, in understanding. And this means in all phases of the life. For, what is the first premise? Know that the Lord thy God is one Lord. That is of soul, of mind, and of body. When the soul, that image of the Creator, is attuned to the divine, you are on the road to meeting thine own self, and all will be well with thee. Sin exists even on the spiritual plane, not only on the physical and mental. Sins of the spirit and mind may not be perceptible by the naked eye, yet they are registered with a finer substance, and are therefore of a much higher vibration than the lower. That is why we suffer quicker and more intensive reactions from these. Psychological conditions are often the basis of some of the racking pains that often seize the body. The disease we suffer has its roots in anxiety, distress, or emotional upset. Yes, here we have a disturbing condition with the body, and a very unusual mind to deal with. To be sure, attitudes oft influence the physical conditions of the body. No one can hate his neighbor and not have stomach or liver trouble. No one can be jealous and allow the anger of same, and not have upset digestion, or heart disorder. Neither of these is present here, and yet those attitudes have much to do with the accumulations, which have become gradually the disorders that tend to produce those tendencies towards a neuritic arthritic reaction. Stiffness at times is indicated in the locomotories, a nausea, or upsetting of the digestive system. Headaches seem to arise from a disturbance between liver and the kidneys themselves, though usually the setting up of better eliminations causes these to be eased. Then the attitudes of the body. Know that there is within self all healing that may be accomplished for the body. For all healing must come from the divine. For who healeth thy diseases? The source of the universal supply. As the attitude, then, of self, how well do ye wish to be? How well are ye willing to cooperate, coordinate with the divine influences which may work in and through thee, by stimulating the centers which have been latent with nature's activities? For all of these forces must come from the one source, and the applications are merely to stimulate the atoms of the body. For each cell is as a representative of a universe in itself. Then what would ye do with thy abilities? As ye give to others, not hating them, to know more of the universal forces, so may ye have the more, for God is love. Man's undoing, then, is within himself, by gratifying the desires, the weaknesses of the flesh. All sickness, then, comes from sin. Ye shall pay every whit, that ye break of the law of the Lord. For the law of the Lord is perfect, it converteth the soul. All illness is a violation of the law of the Lord. It is a rebellion by the self against the understanding of the laws of nature. It is basically selfishness manifesting on the physical level. For here we have an individual entity meeting its own self, the conditions in regard to the movements of the body, the locomotories, the nerve ends, the muscular forces. What ye demanded of others ye must pay yourself. Every soul should remember not to demand of others more than ye are willing to give, for ye will pay, and as most, through thy gills. Remember, the things you applied once, now you are meeting them. Live with this in mind, and every soul may take heed. Ye shall pay every whit, that ye break of the law of the Lord. For the law of the Lord is perfect, it converteth the soul. A few questions and answers that we feel especially summarize the Cayce philosophy of disease. Cayce is also offering the healing path through his analysis. Do emotional disturbances affect the skin on my face? To be sure, emotional disturbances affect the circulation, causing the flushes, which leave drosses, and naturally affect the superficial circulation. Hence, as indicated, the greater need is for better eliminations throughout the system. Please explain how to heal an epileptic, and are they possessed by an unclean spirit? If so, should we command it to leave in the name of Jesus Christ, and to no more enter? There are various characterizations in those that are termed epileptics. Some arise from one condition, some from another. Some are indeed possessed with an uncleanness from those of the moral life in that has been projected, or that brings life in its essence itself, and then become epileptics, meeting in self those very conditions that have been as emissions in its experiences in the earth, bringing then that necessity that others in aiding demand in the name, that these be cast out. 2. There are those that need the body vibrations each day, that these may be made whole by the laying on of hands, which will require some 2, 3 to 4 weeks, that will bring an understanding and a change in the body, or bodies, that will make for wholeness of purpose. 1. Then, that with the aid of others or by self brings such, saves one from much that hinders. Will you please explain and tell me what is signified by the vibratory sensations, which I experience from time to time, especially while in church? Should I make any conscious effort to control or regulate these sensations? As there has been given as respecting the entity's development, the entity's activities in various phases or periods of experience being in association with, endowed with, the power of control over those elements or attributes of mental and physical conditions at variance with the life-giving forces in a body. Hence the associations bring to the inner consciousness the associations of certain elements or vibrations that make for attunement with conditions or experiences within self that have found expression in being given out to others. So, when one is so attuned, so endowed, so in accord with those elements, the vibrations, or those conditions that arise within self, are as the calling of magnet to the steel, calling those kindred ships that are attracted by the spirit answering to spirit.